Welcome to Proven and Probable. I'm your host, Maurice Jackson, and joining me today is Andy Schectman of Miles Franklin, and we're here live at the Sprott Natural Resource Symposium. Andy, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Maurice. It's good to be here.
You know, Andy, you're one of the featured speakers here. If you would, for someone who was unable to attend, what was the theme of your discussion?
The theme of my discussion has been the theme of all of my discussions over the last several years, and that is misdirection of the market, misdirection of the industry, as it relates to a book that I received from a client of mine called The Art of War. And in browsing through the book was taken back by the narrative of this book. It centers on deception and misdirection. It's a 2,500-year-old book written by a Chinese military strategist that has far-reaching implications through business and law and as it pertains to my feelings on what's happening in the market, and which is centrally misdirection of the market through levered futures contracts that creates a perception of reality that I believe to be false, and allows big money like JP Morgan to amass the largest physical position in silver the world has ever seen, north of 600 million ounces of paper silver, while their rhetoric is the opposite of that.
Quite interesting, isn't it?
Yes.
And as well as somewhat in regards to central banks, their rhetoric per se is never regarding the stewardship of owning money, which is gold and silver, as you and I regard it as. Theirs is always manipulating or, as you said, misdirecting what's going on behind the scenes with currency and banks.
Yet they're accumulating an awful lot. If you look at the charts right now, the trend is 45 degrees straight up that the central banks are accumulating. Absolutely.
Andy, talk about what an individual investor can do to offset that. Would it be to actually have stewardship of gold and silver?
It would be to have stewardship of gold and silver. It would be to ignore the price, look under the hood, and base your decision making upon mathematics, logic, and fundamentals. The price is what manipulates the herd, and the fundamentals and the economics and the reality takes a little bit of digging, but it also takes a little bit of conviction and trusting your gut. The only way to really win is to use the pullbacks and view them as a subsidy to buy, even if it means buying 1 or 2 ounces of silver when you can, or 100 ounces of gold, depending upon your capabilities. But the only way to win is to do as they're doing, not as they say. If you look at the 3 main culprits in the commercial bank realm, JP Morgan, HSBC Bank, and Goldman Sachs, all 3 of them, as their rhetoric is neutral to negative, have been accumulating boatloads of physical gold and silver and declaring it to their house account, meaning their own personal property rather than that of their clients. They're misdirecting the public with rhetoric and levered futures contracts to create a negative perception of reality that allows them to pickpocket the world's commodities without any competition. And then, of course, they'll just paper over their short positions. And when it's all said and done, they'll be positioned to take advantage of the next thrust upward as that happens.
That's quite unfortunate. Now, if you would, let's kind of switch gears here. For someone who's interested in purchasing precious metals, let's talk about Miles Franklin here. Talk about Miles Franklin.
We've been in business 27 years. We've done north of $5 billion in sales. We've never had one customer complaint. One of only 27 companies in the world endorsed and or approved by the U.S. Mint for resale of their product. State of Minnesota is the only state in the country that regulates our industry. 2 years ago, July, state of Minnesota said we are going to make doing business either as a company in Minnesota or as my competitors throughout the country into Minnesota. We're all subservient to the same regulations. Most of my competitors, I would say close to 95%, have not been licensed in the state of Minnesota. They will not do business in the state of Minnesota.
Wonder why?
They've boycotted. And I guess if I were a small company outside the state of Minnesota and I only had a handful of clients in the state, I would probably do the same thing, because the requirements are pretty substantial. we have to do background checks of every one of our employees annually and principals. And if any of us had a felony related to anything financial services, disqualified, can't work in the industry. We have a compliance officer and compliance regulations that no one else in the country does. And perhaps most substantial, we have to post an enormous surety bond. And that surety bond would remunerate anyone who fell victim to a problem in the industry. And you know, that isn't really a trivial concept. In the last 3 years, the 3 biggest online retailers, Tolving in 2014, Bullion Direct last year, Northwest Territorial Mint this year, have absconded with north of $130 million, and the owners of those 3 companies are or will spend the good majority of their lives from here on out in prison. And so when you talk about safety and reputation in a federally non-regulated industry, we're at the top of the list. Long before Minnesota accreditation, our reputation is amongst the best. Not one customer or regulatory complaint in 27 years. And throw in the accreditation and you can't come to a safer place to buy gold. That I can assure you.
You know, speaking of safety, what if someone wanted to have their precious metals stored outside of their residence?
And for some people, that's a reality. As a caveat, I think you should hold your metal at home until you start to question its safety and wisdom. If you're looking to get metal out of your home, we can help you with a myriad of choices, starting in North Dakota with the Dakota Depository. It's a military-grade vault. It's fully insured by Lloyd's. It's staffed by ex-military. It's the real deal. We run our inventory out of there, and great people who run it. Then, of course, we have our favorite, and that is our Montreal and our Vancouver storage facilities partnering with BRINKS. Okay. We're also proud to announce the first and only insured safe deposit box system with BRINKS. The program ought to be operational by October 1. Fully insured safe deposit boxes, you hold the only key. There's nothing like it in the industry in a non-banking facility such as BRINKS. We're very excited about that.
Well, thank you for sharing that. And let's close this up here as well with retirement. Can someone contact you about having precious metals in their retirement account?
Retirement account program in precious metals is actually a pretty cool program. Especially if you're nearing the retirement age. At 59 and a half, you can start taking money out through distribution. At 70 and a half, in a traditional, you're mandated to begin taking money out. So what happens is you can transfer or roll over an existing IRA into a precious metals IRA. And there are a handful of custodians around the country that will assist you with that. The one that I work with the best from a customer service standpoint is New Direction in Louisville, Colorado. Okay. I've had nothing but great success working with them. But there are others. You transfer or roll over your IRA to a company like New Direction, where then you have a myriad of choices in gold, silver, platinum, and palladium. Interesting. And can be physically held by a depository. Depository that I would recommend would be Dakota Depository in Fargo. Okay. The neat thing about the precious metals IRA is once it's funded and once it's allocated with the gold and silver and platinum of your choosing, at that point you can actually take physical distribution of your metal. It's called in-kind distribution, and all of the normal distribution, taxation requirements and processes apply. Okay. Meaning, if you're 59 and a half, you can start taking distribution in kind of the metal held for you in lieu of a cash distribution, or in addition to partial distribution in cash, partial in metal. If you wish, penalty-free. If you decided to do it at your age or my age, under 59 and a half, you can still take the metal in kind for whatever reason, but you pay the taxes and a 10% penalty. The bottom line is simply this, without getting too deep into the mechanics. Precious metals IRA is cool because if you believe enough in it to fill it up with gold and silver, it's kind of neat to be able to, for whatever reason you may want, to bring that metal out as an in-kind distribution. taxes and penalties aside, the ability to actually take it through distribution is kind of the golden bonus, if you will.
Yes, it is. Now, Andy, if someone wanted to contact you to get more information on this, give us a website and phone number, please.
We have a new website, milesfranklin.com. Our 800 number is 1-800-822-8080. We publish a free daily newsletter. We're very proud of it. Andy Hoffman works harder than anyone I've ever met. The information in the newsletter is 99.9% informational. It's not a sales pitch, albeit we would like to hope we earn people's trust and they get to know us a little bit through the newsletter.
Mm-hmm.
Ultimately, it's about information and education, not a sales pitch trying to get you to buy, the coin of the week.
Yeah, and what's the phone number?
1-800-822-8080. I'm Andy at milesfranklin.com. And milesfranklin.com to sign up for the newsletter and check out our new website.
All right. Well, Andy Schectman of Miles Franklin, thank you for joining us today on Proven and Probable.
It's always a pleasure, Maurice. You're a gentleman.
Thanks, sir.
Yeah, you bet. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us today on Proven and Probable. Remember to like and subscribe for more conversations with the most respected names in the natural resource space. Check out our website at www.provenandprobable.com. The information presented on Proven and Probable is provided for educational and informational purposes only, without any express or implied warranty of any kind, including warranties of accuracy, completeness, or fitness for any particular purpose. The information is not intended to be and does not constitute financial, investment, or trading advice or any other advice. You should not make any financial, investment, or trading decision based on any of the information presented without first undertaking independent due diligence and consultation with a professional broker or competent financial advisor.